Hey, welcome back to another episode of TPS Traffic Jam. I'm Sean Shapiro. He is not. Although you're going to see his face a lot more. Peter de Quintal, first TPS Traffic Jam. Welcome.
I don't know how to take that I'm not you, but I'm myself. I'm Peter de Quintal, and I'm excited to be here despite the fact that I'm not sure if Sean seems like I'm supposed to be here.
I'm very excited that you're here. And Kim Hefferman, I'm also glad that you're here. And we're talking about back to school, school safety, and of course, crossing guards. That's the focus as we get into this episode. It's something that really doesn't get enough attention. And we want to shine some light at those people who help our children get to and from school every day. Thanks for coming in to talk to us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So your role is actually, you manage the crossing guards for certain areas of the city.
Yes, I'm a director for a crossing guard division that has about 400 locations across the city of Toronto.
400 locations means 400 at least crossing guards working, or are they all simultaneously? It's the same hours that they all operate, right?
There can be variances. Some work 2 shifts at a location and some work 3 shifts. So that would be a morning, a lunch, and then a dismissal at the end of school.
Okay.
So 400 would be 400 individual crosswalks that we have people at every day. There's about 11,000 hours for us.
And those times can vary as well because does it depend to what time the school starts, or if, say there's multiple schools, how does that work on the time that they're there? Like, do you have a set time? Is it an hour or whatever before?
So great question. Each school sets their own bell times. So this week when schools opened, we're going around to all the schools. We do this every year to verify and audit their bell times, and then we roll out the schedules according to what their bell times are. So you could have 3 crossing guards all within sight of each other, all work different shifts because the schools that they service have their individual bell times.
And you have to be there for when the kids are there, not just when the school. That makes sense. So it's a very complicated process. It may not appear to be from the outside looking in, but it's a really complicated scheduling system that you must employ. But that's not what we're here about. We're here to deal with the drivers and other road users who interact with your crossing guards on a regular basis and whether or not they're doing it right. So I'm guessing that not every driver knows what they're supposed to do.
No, absolutely not. As much as we would like to.
Yeah.
And
very often.
No, you're fine with saying that.
Okay.
What's that?
She was a little cautious about saying that.
No, you can say that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
See, sadly, we
I'm not PC. I gotta pretend to be. So.
it is job security for police.
Can we cut and edit that into the I'm not PC? Put
Police
it into the interview.
She meant police constable.
I'm not a PC.
That's what
I'm
we
not
talked
a
about.
PC. You missed it. Yeah.
So the deal is that people generally don't understand what stop signs are. I mean, and I say that tongue in cheek because we know the basics of the rules of the road, and often it appears that is lost on many drivers, and we want to talk about that today. And you have had a ton of experience with schools when you were a school resource officer, aside from having been a student at one point yourself. What was your experience with crossing guards?
So I was a school resource officer and I was a community school liaison officer. And so seeing it, I think too many people often think, from what I've seen, is the crossing guard goes out. Once that stop sign goes down, I can drive across. Mm-hmm. And no, you need to allow them to finish it from one curb to the other curb, complete across the intersection, and then go. But too often, what I'll see is school crossing guard will go out, do the thing. The moment that sign goes down, because they're almost like they're just finishing, the kids have crossed, but they're still mid-traffic, people decide to drive. And so that's always been a cautionary thing to me. But it used to be a ticket I would have handed out too, was to people who I'm like, if the kids are crossing, you don't cross. And at one time, I understand the laws were different, where if they were past the middle way going thing.
So let's break it down for people who are watching going, what are they talking about? At a regular intersection where you have a crosswalk and a signalized intersection, you can continue once the pedestrians have, you have to yield to the pedestrians, but once the pedestrians have crossed your half of the road, you can proceed with your turn or proceeding through a stop sign, let's say. But it changes if it's a PXO, pedestrian crossover, where you have to wait till everybody's off the road, or at a regular intersection, when there's a crossing guard present, you must wait till all persons are off the road. And as you're saying, not just the sign up or down, it's wait till everybody's off the road. And I see it all the time at PXOs especially. Those are the ones that aren't related to an intersection. They're just a set of lights with a crosswalk in the middle of the road. People are passing other cars who are stopped, even though there's still people in the street.
I once watched a child get run over by that exact thing in my own personal time.
Wow.
Where there was cars lined up, left lane, it's lane 1, right?
Closest to the center is 1.
Lane, 1, 2. Go into lane 2, the pass, and they run over the kid. Just clearly run them over. I'm like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
But I was just a regular.
But they stopped.
Once they ran the kid over.
Yeah. That's at least
Yeah, they
A
stopped.
positive,
And then
they
I become a
stopped.
witness. This was me before I was a police officer. And I worked at a Boys and Girls Club. So
We even have it, I hear a lot from our crossing guards where they walk out into the middle of the street with their stop sign up to cross somebody or a group of kids, but people are in a hurry to make the right-hand turn. So the crossing guard either has kids coming out because they are standing out in the middle of the road and kids are still crossing, so there's near misses, or the crossing guards themselves, as you said, when they go back to the other side, they haven't cleared the street yet, but the cars are in a hurry to make the right-hand turn, and there's so many near misses.
in a hurry is a huge problem we have in society. There's a level of entitlement. We're rush, go, go, go. We got lots of things to do. There's TikToks to make, So there seems to be less focus on safety, and that's really what we do here is talk about safety all day long at Traffic Services because it matters, and we want to draw attention to that today. When it comes to people just interacting on the road, we see the problem we do. What's the biggest complaint then from your crossing guards?
Cars not stopping, and they nearly get run over.
That's a valid concern. And when you were with the schools, what was your biggest thing?
I would have said the same thing. Folks just don't stop.
No.
Right? Or they'll speed through. They know it's coming, so they see the kids approaching. I'm just going to gun it through to get past because I don't want to wait the entire 30 seconds it takes for those kids to cross the street.
Yeah.
And that was definitely always a concern.
To me, there's so many different things. And we're talking about speed in relation to school zones is a huge problem, and then you couple it with actually having to pay attention to not hit pedestrians, another problem. But this could all be avoided if people took a breath, planned their route, left, gave themselves enough time to get to where they're going so they wouldn't be stressed, wouldn't be rushed. And now that we're going back to school next week, it is such a huge deal to get your head ready for the changes. We're going to see crossing guards out, and we haven't seen them all summer for the most part. No one's been out, right?
No, we've had 2 locations that have been out, not for school related.
Okay.
But this summer you're going to have in the city of Toronto, you're going to have 800 of them back out as of Tuesday on the streets.
So citywide, it's 800, and you're in charge of
Citywide,
400
yeah.
of them. That's a huge number of intersections where people are going to have to adjust their behavior. But you need to go with the mindset that be prepared to stop, be prepared to wait, and chill out. The biggest focus is paying attention, and in order to be able to see what's going on and be able to adapt to the changes on the road ahead is doing a reasonable speed. So we have speed zones that are reduced in these areas. So we have fines that are increased because it's school zones. And then we have these people who are dressed appropriately and holding giant signs that say stop. You would think that motorists would behave properly.
Just be courteous to one another, right? The goal is we're sharing the road. That is the key to everything, is we share the road. We're sharing these paths. You are no more important than I am. I will tell you, though, however, I would say the children are more important. Let's get them across safely. You can see it coming. The extra few seconds to wait and pause for it isn't going to be the world change. But it could be to those kids.
For sure.
Right?
Well, it's a matter of life and death to the kids. If there's a crossing guard there's a need for a crossing guard at that section.
Because not every intersection gets a crossing guard. There has to be an evaluation done, and it has to be determined that they're needed.
Yes. So
Kim, do you do those evaluations, and how do those evaluations work?
no, I don't.
I'm going back to my 20
evaluations.
questions. Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry, Kim.
That was so close to being like I thought you had something there.
Yeah, and then Kim told me she doesn't know the answer.
Yeah,
So Kim,
sure,
thanks.
do that.
Well,
That's right.
Out of curiosity, do you know how that works, or like how?
No, I think it's done. So there's 200 schools that we service. I don't know about the other companies, but there's 200 schools that we service. So there's not necessarily a crossing guard per school. It, I think, depends on the traffic flow, and that study was done probably. by
So
the city
Toronto Police
engineers.
when we used to run crossing guards in the city, we had officers and civilians who would go out and do evaluations, and they would count the number of pedestrians, the vehicle counts as they went through. They would, I believe, make an estimation or an opinion based on what they had seen as to whether or not it qualified to have a crossing guard. And if we go back into the real old school, there's a clipboard somewhere in this office that has the punch counters like for nightclubs, and they would have one, and it actually had the old school intersection plotted out. Like, this is 1970s tech, and it was awesome. I was actually impressed when I saw it. But someone used to sit there and clickety-click all day long and to determine and get stats on whether or not one was needed. So we know if there's one there, it's because there's a need,
Yes.
because there's a risk, and they're doing good work. They're keeping us safe, or keeping our kids safe. That's not to say any other intersection is not worthy of protection. And it does bother some parents. They say, well, why don't I get a crossing guard? Do you get calls directly about that?
We
or is it-
do. We do. Sometimes people will email us and say we'd like a crossing guard. We direct them back to the city because the city will be the one to determine that. So, yeah.
There you go. In terms of, we talked about slowing down, paying attention, all those things. I like the concept of being a good neighbor, being courteous to one another, because that's really where it starts. And the biggest change as we go back to school is school buses, kids, different times. Folks who have been getting away with, leaving 5 minutes before they have to get somewhere because they haven't had those obstructions of cars and parents dropping kids off. Something that I think is a great back to school general good idea is not to try and drive right up to the school to park blocking everything and then to drop your kid and walk. Like, park at the street next door, walk, take advantage of the wonderful assistance provided by crossing guards, and let everybody get to school safely, as well as don't block a path of vision. People park in areas that make it hard to see.
And the reality is, in the city of Toronto, many of our schools are community schools. So you should be able to walk, and you should be encouraging that as opposed to driving. Because I know, being a community school liaison officer, I think the common complaint in every elementary school thinks it's only their problem is the parking issue, right?
Huge.
Cars parking everywhere. And what you don't understand is when you double park to pick up your child, you're also making it unsafe for them because now they're crossing in between parked cars, which is like the absolute worst because you never know when that car is going to roll. We had a tragedy just a few years ago about stuff like that.
That was horrible.
Right? We got to be careful. We got to think about these things through and stuff. And so don't double park. Say it's an emergency vehicle. You may think it's only 10 seconds, but that could mean life or death to whoever that person is. If that ambulance is trying to get to that person, you got to take these things into consideration. The world is a bigger place than you and I. And we're all contributing into the same community. We all need to care about one another. And so, yeah, that crossing guard is there to ensure someone's child makes it home safely that night. And do you want to be responsible for making that place unsafe and potentially, changing not only that person's life, that child's life, yours and that family you've impacted?
The entire community, that person, whether you knew them or not, has a whole series of people that love and cherish them, and hurting them will impact the entire community, the school
Absolutely.
as a whole. So it's big.
And often the crossing guards themselves are members of the community. So I just talked to a crossing guard the other day who he said, you must be excited to be back. I bet you the kids are looking forward to having you back. And she said, oh, I live in here, so I see the kids all summer long. So they are integral to the communities, and they have those relationships as well with people. So it's not just the back to school time that they might see them. They see them all the time. They know them like intimately.
100%. When I pick up my own children, I'll tell you, I'm the first to say thank you so much to them. And I say hello to them each day as I pass by and stuff. I appreciate what they're doing and what they're trying to do with keeping our kids safe. And me as an adult crossing with my kids and stuff, it means the world. And I think it also helps my kids because I also encourage my kids to say thank you so much and stuff. And I know we used to have a crossing guard. He used to high five the kids. And it's little touches like that make you have that impact and that personal connection because that's somebody else's family member and stuff. And they're caring enough to do this, right? I wouldn't say everybody wants to be a crossing guard because not everybody wants to be, but these people have chosen that path. And it's excellent.
I was going to say, what makes it? What is the average crossing guard? Is someone who is retired, or is it someone who's coming into the security element and doing this as a?
I would say the average are retirees. There's a lot of retirees. We also have a lot of people who have really been career crossing guards. They were crossing guards back for TPS and through the years. I talked to a lady yesterday who's been 15 years just at the location that she's at. I've gone out last year before Christmas and visited some of them, and it is just truly heartwarming to see what the community gives to them to show their appreciation, the kids and the drawings and the pictures and the thank you cards. So I think people do it because they want to be committed to their communities and they want the children to be safe going to school, and that's their way of giving back.
That's awesome.
I like it.
I like it a lot. If I can say, for those of you who don't celebrate Christmas, that's December 25th of every year. Just throwing it in there.
I lost the leader for that. And Hanukkah is just no.
Well, that's it.
So bicycles and crossing guards. Now, you're not supposed to ride a bicycle on the sidewalk or in a crosswalk for sure. It's against the Highway Traffic Act. Do crossing guards ask people to dismount, or they don't engage them? If they do what they do and they just keep the area safe.
We don't encourage them to tell bicyclists to dismount. So that's not something that we teach, so they probably just ask.
That's probably good. But
They would ask them
I'm
to
curious.
stop, but not to get off.
I
the
wonder.
bike.
I wonder if they have issues with that. This is going outside of what we were originally talking about. But you're big into the cycling community. You're into the helmets and teaching kids about safety on bicycles. When just general back to school, is there any messaging that you would share with the kids?
So just so we're clear, in the city of Toronto, below the age of 14, you can ride your bicycle on the sidewalk. However, if you're acting as a pedestrian, when you come up to a crosswalk, they are to dismount, walk that bike across to the other side, and they can remount that bike. And it's something like, for instance, I run a bike rodeo program. It's one of the stages we get into is you dismount, walk your bike across, you get back on.
So yeah, I will walk back. Then they will tell the kids to get off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But a general cyclist,
And
they
that's
won't
excellent.
say to dismount but to a child, yes, they do tell.
In
the
general,
children.
a cyclist should never be using the crosswalk. They should have been using the road itself and going with the flow of traffic. They are a vehicle.
But it's nice that that they're traffic safety ambassadors at that point. They're not just the people stopping traffic. They're part of the community. They're helping to educate. I think it's a really great thing. And if you're a crossing guard and you're watching this, thank you very much from all
Yes,
of us.
thank you.
Because you do important work. And if anyone says otherwise, they're wrong. You can tell them I told them.
They literally put their lives on the line every day they step out there. And we have crossing guards that have perfect attendance, have never booked off day in, day out, rain, shine, minus 30, plus 28. They're out there every day, and they do literally put their lives on the line with all the cars, the vehicle, volume of cars, the bicyclists. We get so many throughout the year that say how they nearly have been hit by a car because somebody wasn't paying attention. So we've actually even had people leave because it's become too dangerous for them.
I'd like to say, before we turn the cameras on, I made the comment that I'd like to see them with body cams. So much happens that isn't captured, so many things that are high risk, and I would hope that people treat them with respect, but I'm sure there are those that don't, and that are either verbally or otherwise abusive, and that's not okay. Obviously, it's not okay for anybody, but someone who dedicates themselves to the community should be honored and appreciated.
No, I absolutely agree with that. And they do get yelled at a lot because, again, they make the complaints to us that people just stop and will actually get into verbal and like sometimes physical confrontations with them. So we actually train them in the orientation, how to identify risks and how to de-escalate situations for their own safety.
That's good.
It's sad, but it happens.
If it happens once, it's too many times. So that already means it's happened too much. Peter, closing remarks, because we've talked about everything I think we need to talk about.
Kim, do you know anything about the SSP program, School Safety Patroller program?
No.
We're going to open up a whole new world to you, Kim, right
Yeah.
now. Let's blow each other's minds.
Let's do it.
So the School Safety Patroller program is a program that's been run for 95 years across this province, 20,000 participants on average in a year. We used to be part of it. The Toronto Police used to do it for over 50 years. This is something we're looking to re-engage. It's run by the CA, Canadian Automobile Association, and what essentially it does is it creates leaders in our community. Small children from grades 5 to 8 will participate in the program. And what we do is there is a portion that can help with it, a crossing guard. They will never enter the intersection, so they wear a safety vest. And I will tell you, seeing a child on the side of the road will immediately have an impact on drivers. It slows them down because they're wondering, well, what's going on? And their goal is to make sure that they help kids, their fellow classmates, schoolmates, cross when it is safe. So they kind of open and close gates. So they'll block it if they think it's unsafe, and they'll close it. And they can work in partnership with a school crossing guard. No different. The school crossing guard would be like, it's safe, and it's an excellent way of creating a partnership. Seeing those kids see that crossing guard as a leader above them and their classmates seeing them as a leader. And it's something I would love to see. And it's something we're talking about. And if there's something we can assist each other with and stuff, I think it's a great way of kind of thing.
Many drivers don't know how to drive. Other drivers choose to break the law. And those that know what most of the rules are probably don't realize just how much they could spend on tickets and demerit points should they decide to break the law, whether a crossing guard is there or not. So if you fail to yield to a pedestrian, what will they win?
So if you fail to yield to a pedestrian, crosswalk, or school crossover, you can get a fine of up to $1,000 and 4 demerit points.
And while people are really worried about the demerit points, because that ultimately changes whether or not you're going to keep your license as you accumulate those charges say that you're not doing the right thing behind the wheel. And insurance companies, they don't like that. You become a high risk to them. And that's a good thing because maybe the insurance premium increase will prevent someone from acting inappropriately. So many drivers don't know how to drive. Others choose to break the law. But breaking the law when you have children involved, oddly enough, it bothers us. Police have a soft spot for those little people who are so important in our community and deserve protection. So we in terms of breaking the law, fines up to $1,000, you said, and up to
4
4
demerit
demerit
points.
points. Of course, the more demerit points you accumulate, the faster you lose your license from the Ministry of Transportation. But those fines, those convictions, well, they affect your insurance, and hopefully that's something that would dissuade you. If you don't want to pay more, follow the rules, and obviously don't hurt people. But in terms of your organization and the people that work for you, they don't want to get hurt. They want to serve their communities and know that they're going to be safe.
Yes.
And which is why we partner to talk about these things. It's so important. The community is for everyone. It's why we call it a community. So help us keep it safe. Drive slow in the areas that you're supposed to drive slow in. And that means not speeding anywhere, really. But please, if you're going to speed somewhere, I'm not suggesting it's permissible, but don't do it near schools. If you got to pick one place to actually follow the rules, it's where the schools are.
I double that.
And slow down and pay attention for the people out there with the big yellow vests on while holding the big red stop signs.
Yeah, and also put your phones down. So much could be avoided. The whoopsie-doos where you take out a human being because you are too busy checking your texts, it's not okay. It's never okay. So put the phone in the trunk if you can't resist temptation, but pay attention to driving. It's a simple task if you actually focus on it.
Sign says one thing: stop, not stoptional.
When we talk to kids in school, they know what a stop sign means. You should too. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.